Sanitizer. All right, I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sylvia, roll call.
Mayor Clark,
Here.
Council President Robinson,
Here.
Councilor Harris,
Here.
Councilor Kuiper,
Here.
Councilor Cook,
Here.
Councilor Henderson, and King are absent tonight.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On our consent agenda, we have 5 items. Approval of March 3rd, 2015 City Council meeting minutes. Resolution 2015-029, authorizing reappointment of Marnie Jett to the Parks and Recreation Board. Resolution 2015-030, authorizing appointment of John Clifford to the Park and Recreation Board. Resolution 2015-031, authorizing appointment of Vitas Babusis to the, and if I mess that up, I do apologize, to the Cultural Arts Commission. Resolution 2015-034, approving amendment number 1 to the employment agreement between the City of Sherwood and Joseph Gall to alter the date for the work performance evaluation of Joseph Gall from February until October. Do I have a motion to approve consent?
I move to consent. Approve consent.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Presentation, we have the proclamation for National Arbor Week 2015. If I could get those from Sylvia. Thank you. So today we have actually 2 proclamations under presentations. The first one is to declare Arbor Week 2015, April 5th through the 11th, 2015. So I'll read the proclamation and then I'll sign. Whereas in 1872, the first Arbor Day was observed in Nebraska with the planting of more than 1 million trees. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and the Arbor Day Foundation facilitates Tree USA certification. And whereas the state of Oregon has decreed that the first full week of April shall be designated as Arbor Week. And whereas the city of Sherwood has been a Tree City USA since 2005, and this is its 10th year as a Tree City. And whereas the city is committed to urban forestry and a partner in Clean Water Services Tree for All project, a collaborative effort to plant 2 million native trees and shrubs in the Tuolumne River Basin within 20 years. And whereas trees properly planted and cared for are a source of community environment that assists in mental and peaceful renewal and provide many comforts, such as shade, clean air, beauty, and increasing property values. And whereas having beautiful trees planted in our community is important to our citizens. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Chrisanna Clark, Mayor, City of Sherwood, do hereby proclaim April 5th through the 11th, 2015 as National Arbor Week 2015 in the City of Sherwood, and I call upon the citizens of Sherwood and the surrounding community to celebrate Arbor Week to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to plant trees that promote the well-being of this and future generations. All right. This is a great program. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to be involved in the Tree for All project, but it is a fantastic project that has actually circled around Sherwood twice in the Woodhaven community. I was part of the first or the second planning in Woodhaven, and much of the tree vegetation that you now are enjoying just down below is from that first planting. And so it's something that is pretty fantastic and has happened all over our city. So I very much thank all of the planters that have come out to beautify our city and Clean Water Services. And there were several other partners as well sponsoring this program. So, okay, and we have another one. So the second one is the proclamation for the National Community Development Week. April 6th through April 11th, 2015. Whereas the week of April 6th through 11th, 2015 has been designated as National Community Development Week by the National Community Development Association to celebrate the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnerships Home Program. And whereas the CDBG program provides annual funding and flexibility to local communities to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing, a suitable living environment, and economic opportunities to low and moderate income people. And whereas the Home Investment Partnerships program provides funding to local communities to create decent, safe, affordable housing opportunities for low-income persons. Nationally, over 1 million units of affordable housing have been completed using home funds. And whereas over the program's history, our community has received a total of $2,228,482 in CDBG funds. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Sherwood designates the week of April 6th through 11th, 2015 as National Community Development Week in support of these two valuable programs that have made tremendous contributions to the viability of the housing stock, infrastructure, public services, and economic vitality of our community. Be it further resolved that this community urges Congress and the administration to recognize the outstanding work being done locally and nationally by the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnerships Program by supporting increased funding for both programs in the fiscal year 2015. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Sherwood, Oregon, to be affixed on this day, March 17th, 2014. Okay, and we have citizen comment time. And I was going to say I saw one got away. Neil Shannon. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you.
Go ahead and make that green by pushing that button, and then you're on.
Got it. Thank you very much. My name is Neil Shannon. I am a citizen of Sherwood. I will also indicate that I have a bit of a dog in the fight as far as emergency preparedness. I am a volunteer with ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Services, and actually an official City of Sherwood volunteer for the ham radio station. I will also indicate that I have previously, 6 years ago, participated in the original CERT program for the City of Sherwood, which was then later disbanded. My topic tonight, well, first of all, I'd like to say it was a fascinating presentation in the work session this evening in regards to the emergency preparedness and the cooperative program with Washington County. I may not be able to be here at the next meeting when this is heard before council. I would like to indicate my support for it right now. Also, I'd like to really thank Chief Groth and Captain Daniels for the services that they've provided in emergency management. But the topic that I really wanted to talk about tonight was disaster preparedness. One of the things that has been talked about is the difference between an emergency and a disaster. In an emergency, you pick up 911, you get an answer, the police, fire department, somebody shows up. In a disaster, you pick up the phone, you call 911, nobody answers. I am a little bit disappointed with the City of Sherwood and their program as far as getting citizen involvement. I think as far as disaster preparedness, we need to consider the resiliency of the citizenship to be able to answer their own disasters until the emergency management system can engage. To give you an example, I got onto the City of Sherwood's website this evening and looked up emergency management. You can't really find a link for it, but if you search for it, you'll find it. And I've learned that September is Emergency Management Preparedness Month. Unfortunately, that was September 2013. Also, if we look for contact information for emergency management with the City of Sherwood, I learned that it's a placeholder. They haven't got any contact information. So I would really like to see some greater involvement as far as getting the community prepared. we have a lot of resources in this town. We have a strong Church of Latter-day Saints program, which is, they're strongly involved in citizen preparedness. And so that's my opinion, is I'd like to see a little bit more citizen involvement, citizen preparedness, rather than just trying to manage an emergency.
Thank you. Okay. Jean Stewart?
Eugene Stewart, I'm a property owner in Sherwood. I'd like to comment just a little further on Neil's, is that it seems like what the city needs is a framework for citizens' involvement and a lot of other things, especially like our comprehensive plan. I think if you had a decent framework, whether it would be, as an example, you use all the schools as a meeting place to discuss whether it's city things, school things, emergency things, or whatever. But as it is right now, there is no framework for the citizens to become involved, whether it's for volunteering to go out and help clean up the parks. Wouldn't it be nice if we brought it down to a even smaller level to get projects started and done? And I think the thing is, you need to somehow come up with a framework for how to get citizens involved and take it very seriously. I think there's a lot of help out there.
Thank you, Jean. Do you have any other? Okay, I'll close the citizen comments. New business, Resolution 2015-032, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with AKS Engineering and Forestry to provide professional engineering services for the Columbia Street Regional Stormwater Quality Facility Pipe Bore Mitigation, Design, and Permitting Project. Bob Glotty?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Sorry for the long title.
That was
there.
quite a title. Impressive.
That's what we put on the contract, so I'm sort of mirroring that. This project is basically a continuation of a project that we just completed, which is our Columbia Street Water Quality Facility. As part of the process of getting that project permitted, we sent it out for jurisdictional agency comments, which included Clean Water Services, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and other agencies, including Oregon Fish and Wildlife. As part of the process for their permit approval, they had conditions on the project that required us to do some downstream mitigation. The mitigation for this process was basically a bore pipe replacing a culvert that runs under the railroad track. It's a fish passage issue. So it creates a fairly large stumbling block at the time that we were doing it. And we negotiated with ODF&W to basically allow us to not include it with the project at that time, but to deal with it afterwards and sort of work it into the system, as soon as we could, which we're doing right now. Basically, we have the other project was constructed, completed, and there are some funds left over. The funds are adequate enough to cover the cost of us doing the design for this bore pipe mitigation project. We could actually get the design done and get it into the permit review process very early so that we can get into doing in-stream water work next summer as soon as possible. So the timing is pretty advantageous for us to do this as well. What we're looking for is authorization to the city manager to sign a contract. Actually, it's going to be assigned to AKS. State law, just to bring you up to speed with the contract, is that state law allows a municipality with a contract to extend a contract, actually dedicate it to the same consultant if it doesn't exceed a certain amount, and it's an extenuation of the same project, which this project is. This contract is basically same engineering firm doing the continuation of the same work. So under the Oregon rules for contracting, we can assign it to them, and it meets the minimum requirements by quite a bit. In fact, it's only $24,915 to do the design work. So as part of the authorization, we're asking that you approve, or we recommend that you approve to city manager to sign a contract for $24,915 to AKS and allow a 5% contingency of $1,245 to bring the total amount to $26,160 for authorization to the city manager for this project.
Thank you. Council? Any questions?
I just have a quick question for you, Bob. So the work would be conducted next summer? And we'll-
Correct.
Okay.
It's
so
in
that'll
the,
be-
it's in the, this upcoming year's budget to do the construction work.
Okay.
But didn't you say it would be done next summer?
That's when the in-stream water work will be. So as soon as, the in-stream water work starts July 1st. So that's
It's
the next
just for the
fiscal year.
design.
We're going to do the design this year.
So I think when he's saying next summer, he means the summer of 2016. Is that correct?
15.
So
We'll
it
get,
would be in a few months?
it'll be in a few months. We'll be able to get the design in, get it permitted right now. And then as soon as the new fiscal year rolls in, we want to run right into construction with this thing.
And I just have a quick question. Does the ODFW, the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, is this the first barrier, the fish barrier here from, or is it that they want us to fix?
No, if you go back to the Healthy Streams Act and what was going on with Washington Street was another fish barrier.
What I mean, is this the first culvert that the fish come to that they can't get through? Or is there one further downstream from this culvert?
There
that
is
would
another one
prevent-
downstream because it runs underneath the highway. But this is the first one that they picked up within a certain reach.
Well, I'll mention we also did improve the culvert at Stellelson Park on Washington Street. That was also a project that was identified specifically for fish passage, but obviously there needed to be other improvements there as well. So that was another impediment that we moved that was just downstream from this.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt Resolution 2015-032, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with AKS Engineering and Forestry.
A second?
All in favor? Opposed? I hear none. Motion carries. Thank you, Bob. Resolution 2015-033, authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreements for the Center for the Arts. Tom?
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. So this is a resolution that is we're glad to put together and finally be talking about leasing space at the Center for the Arts. As you well know, the Center for the Arts is now open, and one of the primary decisions that was made a number of years ago was to add lease space to the center in order to support the operations that would be going on at the center. So I think it's something we've talked about before. Centers of this type tend to not have full recovery of their costs. And so one of the concepts was to let's lease some space to tenants that will offset some of those costs. So this has been talked about a lot. We actually have about 3,000 square feet of lease space that's currently available at the center. We are working on a process to advertise that space and get it leased out. And so this resolution has been put together essentially to allow the city manager to enter into those lease agreements. But before that happens, I've kind of outlined a process here in the staff report that I'll just walk through real quick because this is really our intent of how we expect this to work is, first off, the city and the Urban Renewal Agency has retained Kidder Matthews to market and manage the leasing process. That was a previous resolution that was passed by council. We currently are advertising for lease space. There's going to be a lot more signs that are going up here in the next week on the windows. We're going to put a sign out there on the property. They're going to be advertising the DJC, and they're also going to be doing outreach to pretty much everybody that they can think of to allow people to submit RFPs over the next 6 weeks. In particular, that then can be reviewed by a selection committee. So we'll put a selection committee together that will consist of some counselors and staff. So I need no more than 3 counselors to hopefully help with that process. And then we'll go through those requests for proposals. One of the main reasons we want to do requests for proposals, the tenants that we want for that facility, or at least it's what's been talked about for a long time, are tenants that will help support not only the operations, but coexist very well with the facility, or even support the operations that go there. So we want tenants that make sense to be in a facility that is doing art performances and everything else. So certainly there could be things that just wouldn't make sense to be a neighbor or wouldn't really support the operation. So that's one of the reasons we're putting a request for proposal process out there. We have supplemental questions that really get to the core of that question. The selection committee will review those RFPs and then ultimately recommend to the city manager which proposals they would like them to enter into negotiations. As you know, with leases, there's tenant improvements that need to be done. There's other items that need to be negotiated. So it's not just we put in a proposal, it's all done. There's a lot of things that need to go on in order for both sides to feel comfortable that they have an agreement. And then the lease agreement needs to be signed. And one of the concerns that I've heard in the past, and one of the reasons for this resolution is once you get through those negotiations, you kind of need to act fairly quickly. And after you do that, bringing it back here and going through a public process and back and forth can be somewhat problematic. So this resolution would give the city manager the ability to execute the lease terms. It would also, it's not in the resolution, but certainly the city manager would come back to you and tell you what they did and why they did it and where they're going. The resolution also gives the city manager the ability to modify the lease terms in the future if there were other things that needed to happen down the road.
Thank you, Tom. I'm really excited about this space because I was supportive of the Art Center when I knew that we would have lease space available that could offset the costs of what is traditionally a loss leader. This space is really instrumental in making sure that this facility is sustainable. And so I appreciate the work that you've put together. And I just have one question. So am I to understand that as the selection is being made, those 3 members of council will be part of that selection process?
That's correct. So we certainly want you guys to have access to all the proposals as they come in. You know, we're going to have at least 6 weeks for the proposals roll in before we make any decisions. But, you know, we'll leave the leasing open until we have all the space filled. So it may be, 6 months or hopefully not a year, but 3 or 4 months before, we have all the proposals in. So it's not going to all happen at once, but certainly as the proposals roll in, we'll certainly want your feedback because it's important that we make sure that council has some representation on that.
Council, any other questions?
Sounds great.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve Resolution 2015-033, authorizing the city manager to enter into lease agreements.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, we've got a public hearing, ordinance 2015-003, amending multiple sections of the zoning and community development code, including divisions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Connie Randall is not here, and so we've got our representation, Brad Kilby. Thank you. Thank you.
I think you need to read the hearing statement,
Oh, I'm very sorry.
or Sylvia does.
No, it's a continuation, so I don't need
It's
to
a
read it.
continuation, so it's our
I
second
didn't know
reading.
that we continued it. I thought we, okay,
This is our second reading.
correct.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. So tonight we'll be discussing PA 1402, which was a suite of code amendments that we're proposing out of the planning department and ultimately the planning commission. So there are 52 proposed amendments within your packet. You heard this last on the 3rd, I believe, or yes, the 3rd, and now you're hearing it again on the 17th. The intent of these proposals are to correct errors, increase consistency throughout the code, consolidate definitions so that they're all in one section of the code, and clarify code language. There are two minor substantive changes that I'll go into in a few minutes. The idea behind the substantive changes were to look at two changes that have been made in the past and make the code consistent with them. So the first one is as it relates to incidental retail sales in industrial zones. Prior to 2012, they were allowed to, industrial properties were allowed to include 10% of retail space as long as it was incidental to the use that was allowed on the property. It changed from permitted at that time to conditional, and so we're looking to take it back to a permitted use. Then we're also looking at making Chapter 16-120 consistent with our chapter as it applies to subdivisions. And ultimately what it is it's increasing the performance bond allowance from 100% to 125% to account for increases in the consumer price index and the cost of pooling and performing on a bond in the event that a developer didn't perform improvements that they had proposed in their application. As a background, the Planning Commission held 3 work sessions over the last year on this matter. They began in April of last year. Staff came back with about 80 proposed edits, and they've narrowed it down to these 52. The other remaining issues are considered policy, more policy-related decisions that they thought the community needed to vet through a little bit further, and so those aren't before you this evening. We've supplied the necessary public and agency notice, and the only notice, or the only agency comment we got back was from ODOT to make sure that we are meeting the transportation planning rule. So the required findings, I'll get into that. We have to identify that there's a need and make sure that's consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan, the city and state statutes and regulations. So we identified the need in that oftentimes we get into situations where the code's not always clear or it's not consistent with other sections of the code. And so this is more of a housekeeping and cleanup process. With respect to the 10% incidental retail sales, we had a few projects that came through the city and we had to take them through conditional uses to allow them to provide for some incidental retail sales, even though their use was allowed in that section or that zone. And then the transportation planning rule essentially says that whatever rules you're making or adopting cannot negatively affect the functional capacity of adopted plans as it relates to the state transportation rules and your own local transportation system plan. I'll get into how those have been met in a moment, but as you'll see on the 2 substantive changes within the table as it applies to Chapter 1631, which is our industrial use standards, we are proposing to make the incidental retail sales permitted outright. It restores a pre-2012 rights, and it's consistent with the Metro Urban Growth Management Functional Plan. Under that plan, we're allowed to provide or allow for up to 5,000 square feet of retail space in a single outlet and up to 20,000 within a campus type setting. So our language is that you're allowed to do this provided you don't exceed that 5,000 square feet and that it's less than, that it's 10% of your use. The performance security, again, is in line with what other cities around do. So 125% is not a magic number. It's just a number that to help us keep up, again, with the consumer price index and the cost of performing on that bond. So based on those items, and this is your second opportunity, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of PA 1402, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Council, any questions?
I have a question. What was the original recommendation before in 2012 when we moved from outright permitted to conditional? Do you
So
remember?
staff did go back and look at that. That was a year-long process in and of itself, and so there was a planner here that had initiated that process, and then she left, and then I came on board and picked up with the process. And during the time that she had it, they had gone through certain use tables to determine, what needed to be permitted conditionally outright or not permitted at all. And that one specifically had just been changed to conditional use. There was no discussion on it. I never saw anything about it, and there was no discussion in any of the subsequent hearings that we had. So I had assumed that they had had that discussion in one of the earlier work sessions that she had facilitated. But in our research, we didn't find any reason that they had switched it from from permitted to conditional.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, I'll open up the public hearing. I have one request for citizen comment. Eugene Stewart.
Eugene Stewart, property owner in Sherwood. I've got some mixed emotions of probably just pass this tonight, but I would hope that in the future you would take a closer look at citizens' involvement as it's outlined in Goal 1. My reading of it is that when you have an amendment to your plan text, you're supposed to notify all people who are affected by it. Since this is citywide, why wasn't a public notice sent out to every property owner? I know it's expensive. That may be one reason, but the public notices you post, I dare say more than 5–10% of the people actually see them. How many people do you think see them at senior center? The ones you post at the post office. Very seldom do when I'm in there do I see people that are looking at it. So I think you need to take a look at Goal 1, see if it's in line. You're supposed to have a citizens involvement plan. Are they following that? Or is it outdated and needs to be updated? Much like the inventory needs to be updated. There's lots of things in the plan that need to be updated. So maybe, fine. If this cleans it up, go forward, but in the future, let's sit down and take a close look at the plan again, do a major revision. I think the city needs to step up and help fund that so it can be done, get the citizens involved, review all the goals and see where this plan is actually. I think there's more things within the plan even now. Why wasn't, like downtown parking even brought up at the time they were amending this? I mean, we're seeing the mess that's being caused when you have lowered the parking requirements. Now, the Civic Theater over there, that really jams things up tonight. Luckily, St. Patrick's Day wasn't on a Saturday and you had a play going on at the same time. What's happening is that some of these businesses, I had one client that said that he came down to go pop into the little grocery store. He couldn't find a place to park, so we went someplace else. So it is going to hurt some businesses if we don't address some of this. But anyway, a question also on the industrial use. Are we defining things so narrowly that it's going to make hard for some things to come and fit in? Because I don't know whether a major warehouse would come here or not, but would we kind of try to fit them in some place they don't belong? If you look up around, I know around the Seattle area, the IKEA store and Costco, a lot of times you find them in an area that you would consider to be more industrial than retail. So there is maybe a use for some of these in our industrial area, but we're precluding it from coming in, I mean, is that the right decision to make? I don't know. I would question it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean.
Jean, if I could respond,
Yeah.
since we're not using up your time. I was on the planning commission when we first started this review, and it was a long process. And I have to say that there were several planning commission meetings where this was addressed. And my understanding is that we undertook the simplest, least controversial, but cleanup options that were available to us with the use of our staff that we had at the time, with the intention that eventually council is going to be presented with, and planning commission will work through some more substantive review of the code, which your ideas would be wonderful. And I invite you to continue to watch the planning commission agendas so that you are well informed of those workshops, because they do a good job, especially when they have the roundtables and they're getting some really positive, active discussions amongst the citizens that come in. So please,
Yep.
please be on the lookout for that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yvonne Gebhardt?
Yvonne Gebhardt, 22146 Southwest Orland Street. On item 10, would the marijuana dispensaries be qualify for that as well?
Staff? Yeah, could you specify item 10, what numbers, or where is
For
that located?
The item 10 on the.
Under the-
The industrial,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, I see it in the back. It's in the back.
What she's referring to is the 10%, that second thing, the incidental sales, the 10% incidental.
Could you give us oh,
So it's,
your page number, or is it
Yes.
on
Oh.
40? Okay,
And I guess I'll jump in and answer that rather than trying to, we're going through the medical marijuana dispensary
that's
discussion. Whatever we do will be separately identified, so it won't fall through the cracks there if we have regulations regarding medical marijuana dispensaries.
what she said.
all right, perfect. Thank you, Julie. Do I have any additional comments? I'll close the public hearing and open it back up to council. Any comments from council? Do I have a motion? This will be our second reading.
No. So I move that we approve ordinance 2015-003. I move that we read, caption, and adopt ordinance 2015-003.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Both-
Marion.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's
Mayor
roll call.
Sherwood.
Sorry, ordinance roll call.
Counselor Cook? Counselor,
I think my understanding is with the changes that you need to read the entire ordinance title is, and so you did say move to adopt ordinance 2015-003, but you didn't give the entire title, just to be on the safe side here.
Okay, so can you please withdraw first?
I withdraw everything I said.
Okay, you want to?
No.
Okay, you know what? Here we go. I'll do it. All right. I move that we recaption and adopt ordinance. Let me get to it.
Here.
Thank you. I got it. 2015-003, amending multiple sections of the zoning and community development code, including divisions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
I second.
Sylvia, roll call.
Counselor Cook?
Aye.
Counselor Harris?
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper?
Aye.
Counselor King is absent. Counselor Henderson is absent. Council President Robinson?
Aye.
Mayor Clark?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. All right, city manager department report.
Mayor and Council, I have nothing tonight unless you have questions for me or the department directors that are here. We still have a
Questions, council?
heavy agenda yet after this meeting, so.
Yes, all right. So we do have a heavy agenda after this. So could we keep our council announcements somewhat brief? I understand that Councilor Harris has quite a bit to say, so we're going to let you go first.
Okay. I have a couple of things on a personal note and then some reports for all of my liaison assignments.
Fantastic.
So on a personal note, I want to just say we had a pretty tragic story on Sunday, and I want to start the dialogue about mental health in our community and start the dialogue of what we can do as a city and as a council to bring some resources to the community in the form of health fairs, partnering with the school district to work with some programs. Rachel's Challenge, for instance, a great program to bring to the city of Sherwood. I'm new on council, so I haven't gotten a lot of the information in the past, but my understanding is this is not something that is new in our community, and it's a problem. So I just really want to say how sorry I am to the Cole family, and I can't begin to fathom what they're going through. And I just really think it's important that as leaders in this community that we get this conversation started and quickly. On a lighter note, I would also like to, I'm not sure how to, who's in charge of it, but I've had a couple of citizens ask me about our closed circuit TV. Apparently there's closed circuit television that you can watch these on, and it's kind of loops or something.
Public access TV.
Public access television, and it doesn't always work properly. So I'm hoping that we can get that working properly.
One of the reasons you have all updated equipment
That's what I thought.
is to help it work more properly. You will soon be broadcasting live, so people will be able to watch council meetings live instead of taped, both on their cable channel and ultimately on their on the website.
So has our IT staff been working to solve the problem
Yes.
of the glitching? Okay,
Yes.
so I think that maybe that's what Councilor Harris would like the community to know, is that we are aware of the problem and that we are working towards a solution.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think one thing, just for clarity purposes, unlike TVC-TV, which a lot of other jurisdictions utilize, when council meetings are not being shown, they do a lot of other programming.
Oh,
We don't have the staff for the capability to do that kind of robust programming because we're not a member of that kind of coalition. We do it on our own.
okay.
So we basically do council meetings and planning commission meetings.
My understanding that for a long time it was kind of a snowy picture.
Yeah. So part of it is the equipment, and I think that will go a long way toward the quality issues. But I think planning commission and council meetings, being able to watch live is coming very soon.
That's good. And then what if somebody can't watch it live?
Then they'll be able to watch on we actually have a YouTube channel, they'll be able to watch videotapes of past ones.
And it will be
yeah.
clear and they can
Yes.
see it. Okay.
Part of this is we've all had, all the equipment that was in this building, even though it's not that old a building, was all analog.
Mm.
All of this is now digital. So we've
That's
gone
nice.
from the dark ages to, 21st century, so.
Okay. Perfect. And then I want to make a motion. I move.
Is this
I'm-
about the chickens?
Yeah, I have had several emails and conversations with citizens who are interested in either legally having their chickens in their yard, which a lot of them already have, or getting chickens in their yard for less than $4,000. Many of our surrounding cities have them. It's a pretty common thing nowadays as people are becoming self-sustainable and wanting to grow and eat their own foods and know what's going on with their food sources. So as a city councilor and somebody who believes in knowing where your food comes from and trying to eat locally as much as I can, I really want to pick this up again and start looking into it. So I want to make a motion.
So
Yes.
do,
A little bit of background, and
Yeah.
Julie, fill in the blanks. Back in about 2011, the Planning Commission at that time had done a fair amount of work on creating a chicken ordinance, similar to what other communities had done. It never came to council for consideration, and we've been hearing from folks as well that would like us to revisit that. So you and I have talked about how would we get that process started again? And the motion that I think you're going to put on the table for consideration by council is basically to ask the Planning Commission to kind of dust that off, that previous
Right.
work, and go through a public process again.
Mhm.
And basically, go through the process, and then ultimately it would come back to the council for adoption.
Right.
Some kind of a chicken ordinance with a much less of a fee than
Right.
what is attached now. Right now, it's a conditional use permit, and it's about a $4,500 charge.
Right now, it's similar to having if you had a farm
So, yes.
rather than just.
So did I cover the basics?
Yep, perfect.
And I think, I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like I said, most of our surrounding cities allow chickens in personal property. So I think that our staff can do a great job and our planning commission can do a great job of bringing us something that is viable that we can discuss. So to that end, I move that the city council direct the planning commission to resurrect their 2011 recommended language regulating chickens and evaluate whether any modifications are recommended after additional opportunities for public input and forward recommended language regulating chickens to the council for consideration.
I'll second. Do we have any comments, other comments from council? I'd like to comment. I think that opening something like this up that is on the hearts and minds of our citizens, I've heard people talking about this as well, is a great idea. I think that we should have a public process to talk about this because people are obviously talking about it. And so I think that this is a great idea to dust it off, talk about it, and have a public process and see what people think about it. So I would be in favor of this. Any other comments?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. Staff has their direction. Okay, keep going. Do you have anything else?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't want to cut you off.
So cultural arts, Mary Poppins, second week sold out. So great. That show brought in over 2,000 audience members to the center, which was great. They came from all over town, not just Sherwood, all over the community and outlying areas. So that was a fantastic opening show for us to have. There are 7 rental contracts pending. When I got this update, it could be more now because we had several others in the application phase. Things such as dance recitals, tourism award luncheons, and high school reunions are just a few of the things that people are contacting Maggie and Kristen about for the center. The more we rent that out, the better for us. It's definitely a revenue option, which is great. And their regular business hours right now are 11 to 5, so you can stop by and check it out if you haven't been able to get in there yet, and just look around. That group did not meet this month, so that's just a quick update for what's going on. The library update, 27,000 items checked out in February. That's a 1% increase from 2014 and our library continues to defy national odds. So Sherwood is just pretty much awesome in every way, from their library to their trees to everything. The 6-word story contest ends on the 28th of March. I could never write a story in 6 words, but Jennifer and her family have been participating in that, and apparently it's quite exciting. You can email or Facebook those 6-word stories to the library if you can figure out how to do it. Let's see. Oh, movies during spring break for kids. They are doing movies during spring break. The calendar is on their Facebook page, so you can go there for details about the movies and other activities that they're doing. I did have a school board meeting this month. The school board is pretty exciting right now. Heather Cordy, our superintendent, is not leaving for Eugene. There was an article about her possibly taking a position as a superintendent in Eugene. She has opted out of that position and decided to stay here in Sherwood. The school board is right now wrangling with full-day kindergarten. Next year, we will have full-day kindergarten, which is mandated by the state. So we are dealing with a whole new group of students that are coming to our schools and filling them up. Also, they're talking about different release patterns right now. If you don't have kids in school, you may not know, but they have early release on Fridays, once a month, basically for staff to have training. And they're trying to figure out different ways to manage that school time so that the teachers still get their training and staff development time, but kids are in school more. They're talking about different things like late starts, early releases, different creative options to allow teachers to have that time, bringing in subs, not having early release. They're still in planning phases, so keep watching for that. The boundary adjustment recommendation has been voted on and completed. Edie Ridge, our elementary school, is over 100% capacity, so next year they'll be moving the Heron Ridge neighborhood. If you know that, it's off of Roy Rogers Road over to Middleton. It's a contentious move. They are not happy about it, but all the schools are great, and they'll be great once they're over there. A lot of them are really sad about it, and it's a difficult situation for kids, but hopefully we will have adults who can manage change better than a lot of adults now can manage change, but it's still hard to watch your kids struggle with that. So there's more information on that boundary change on their website. There is a call to action right now for the school district. The state of Oregon is talking about a $7.235 billion, which sounds like a lot, billion-dollar budget for our schools, but that would mean a $76 per student loss. So over $400,000 loss to our school district alone. So right now we are asking you to contact your legislators and encourage them to stop the adoption of the K through 12 funding level. $76 per student is a ton of money. It doesn't sound like very much, but when you add that up for an entire school, that's a lot of money that our kids will be missing out on from funding from our state. So there is enough money in our state budget to stop that. We just need to get people calling them and telling them that we need more money. So I am, with kids in school, I of course am super worried about that dollar amount, and if you don't have kids in school, you should still be worried about it, because these kids are our future adults and we need to get them educated properly. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Council President Robinson?
This Saturday, the 21st, you may see some of the city council out on the road cleaning up. It's our Adopt a Road cleanup from 12 p.m. until we're done. And I hope that councilors King and Henderson will be there, even though they're not here tonight. Hope they'll be out there with those of us who are planning on it. Sherwood West Concept Plan, we have another meeting coming up on April 2nd at 6:30 p.m., I believe, at the police station. Is that right? I think, yeah. So we're moving the location to make it a little bit easier for public participation. And lastly, we had a wonderful Planning Commission workshop last week on medical marijuana. And it is delightful to come to those work sessions where we have tables and all of you can sit around the table. There was probably 8 people, I'm thinking, at each table, and we had at least 4 or 5 tables. And we entered into a dialogue. It was really great, and just an abundance of creativity and ideas and comments and input. So we very much appreciate that. And if you have never been to one, I encourage you to come, because you do feel like you're participating, and it's a wonderful opportunity for you to do so. So in the future, you see one of those again, please come.
Thank you. I look forward to cleaning up the roads. It's always more fun to clean up somebody else's mess than your own. So I'll be there. Council
I'll be there too. That's Saturday, cleaning up. I had a great time. A few of the other counselors went, and some city staff went to the YMCA's Dine and Dance on Friday. all the money that is made through that Dine and Dance goes directly to the Sherwood Family YMCA, and a lot of that specifically is earmarked for the teen center. So that is a huge benefit to our teen community, and it was a really great time. The highlight for me was a young man named Sean who is supported by the Y in one of their programs, and he was absolutely fantastic. And he is a special needs individual, and he was absolutely amazing, has the most beautiful singing voice. It was wonderful. So I was really thankful to be a part of that celebration. On Monday, I got a chance to go to an all-day training on finances and city financials, and that was excellent. I learned a lot that I really look forward to sharing with the newer counselors. And I met a lot of great city folks from other cities, City of Wood Village and City of Gresham. And then we actually got a chance to share some of the different things that they have learned from the budgeting process. They were a lot more tenured than I was, so yeah. Anyway, come watch us on Saturday. Pick up garbage.
I don't know if it's a watchable thing, but okay.
Sure.
Counselor Cook.
You can honk and wave.
So first, I also wanted to applaud Councilor Harris's comments regarding mental health within our communities. As a parent of, similar age children, it was really tragic to see what we experienced last week, and I'd love to see a community conversation around these issues. And I also want to say that, on Friday, our community, our region experienced the death of Gretchen Kafori, who was a classmate of mine at the Master of Public Administration program at Portland State University, a friend, a mentor, someone who really pushed you to want to be involved in your communities, to help do more. She is absolutely the reason why I have spent, time volunteering at every city I've lived in since meeting her, and she is going to be sorely, sorely missed by many of us.
Thank you. So I went back to the legislator last Wednesday to the Westside Economic Alliance legislative reception, and had an opportunity to lobby some of our legislators some more, particularly about transportation funding. Washington County is particularly very concerned about transportation funding in our future, and so we were glad to see several legislators come in and open up the conversation. So I appreciate the opportunity that Westside Economic Alliance offered to us to host that. You want to talk a little bit about the contest that?
The If I Were a Mayor contest?
Yes.
Yes.
Because
Yes, we are doing this for the first time, at least in a number of years here in Sherwood. I believe, when's the deadline? Do you recall, Sylvia, for applications?
I believe it's the 15th of...
I just wanted to get the information out.
Yeah, it's on the website, and this is for 3 different age groups. I believe 5th graders up, so there's elementary school, middle school, and then high school. And there's different categories in terms, I think the younger kids, it's a poster. The middle school kids, it's an essay. And then the high school kids can do a digital type presentation of a video or PowerPoint or something like that. They will submit to the city recorder, who's helping you manage the program. You will make some choices based on the submitted items, pick a winner from each category to send on to the statewide competition. And the 3 winners, I think you'll introduce at a council meeting, and hopefully when you go to the Oregon Mayor's Conference, you'll see a winner from the city of Sherwood.
Absolutely. So I'm excited about the contest, and I hope to get the word out to our students if I were mayor. So we want to hear what you would do, because that's a fun thing to think about.
And this is a contest that every year happens. We got in a little bit of a late start compared to previous years, but we will definitely hit the ground running again next year and have a little bit more time to coordinate with the schools.
Excellent. And information is on the city website again. Okay, so I think that that is all that I have this evening as well. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up is Budget Committee applications. We are accepting applications. We have,
Yeah, I will post that tomorrow. Julie was out of the office, but we're going to repost for some vacant positions on the budget committee. We'll probably have about a 10 to 14 day period, so it'll be a quick turnaround because budget committee is going to be up and running, and May is going to be here before you know it. So we
Right.
want to have a full committee up and running soon, but we will advertise that tomorrow.
okay, so if you're interested in joining our Budget Committee, please get those applications in and we'll post it tomorrow. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. We are adjourned to executive session.
Comments.